Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Carter. I'm the emergency response meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Today is Monday, June 22nd, 2026. And the top headlines that we need to keep an eye out for today and really the week ahead is because we are wrapping up things in VDEM Region 5 with Sail 250. We are, of course, keeping a close eye on the weather and marine forecast, but today and tomorrow are the days to watch. We have a slight risk for severe thunderstorms statewide today, along with flood watches in effect for Tazewell, Buchanan, and Dickinson counties. And then tomorrow, although we don't have a severe weather threat, we are tracking some potential for some heavy rainfall, which we absolutely need. So today and tomorrow are really the big days to watch. So the weather pattern that we have, a cold front back to our west, it has a lot of moisture available with it. That's why we have the potential of seeing some of these heavy downpours with the thunderstorms that will develop. But ahead of it, we have really a lot of instability on our atmosphere. And given the sunshine that we have, that's going to act like a pot of boiling water on the stove and just allow for some of the convection to develop later this afternoon. So later afternoon and evening, we'll talk a little bit more about timing of the storms and potential severe weather coming up. But then that cold front does alleviate at least some of the heat that we will see today. So today, a hot one. Tomorrow, slightly cooler, still warm, of course, because we are not quite in summer, but meteorological summer. And so we will definitely be seeing some slightly cooler air tomorrow. And then we have the chance for just kind of some patterns of instability sticking around throughout the rest of the week. Wednesday, probably the quietest day, but Thursday and Friday, we are still looking at the potential or chance, trying to combine those two words there, of some isolated thunderstorms as well. But today and tomorrow are the days to watch. So before we get into the flood threat, let's first focus on our severe weather threats. So the yellow that you see there, slight risk for almost the entire state. The only exception is that little sliver of Hampton Roads that's under a marginal risk. So good for that area because they are trying to, again, wrap up and get a lot of the boats and the taller ships to move on out. So we like that it's less of a severe weather threat and things are moving along this morning, but still a severe weather threat nonetheless. So the timing statewide, this is a big window, but we're talking about the whole state of Virginia, is roughly 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Now, certainly we could be seeing thunderstorms before 4 p.m. It's just that the severe threat is going to be a little bit later on from that 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. time frame. The storms will move through generally to the east-southeast at 35 to 45 miles per hour, so they'll be moving pretty quickly here. So that is actually a point of good news for us because even given the flood threat, given how fast these storms are going to move, it is going to be a little bit harder for them to, sit over one area and just create a lot of flooding. So they'll be moving pretty quickly. The flood threat really comes with the heavy downpours and training of the storm. So when we see storms setting up over a specific area and just kind of continuing on, but the storms themselves are pretty quick movers. The main threats that we're talking about today, gusty winds in excess of about 60 miles per hour or greater, but we do also have the potential of seeing some hail up to an inch in diameter. Isolated tornadoes are going to be possible for part of the Commonwealth, and then we are also looking at that localized flooding threat as well. So when we break down the different threats, winds, again, the biggest threat, and that is really statewide. Anyone in the entire state could be seeing wind damage. When we focus on tornadoes, that is a lot more of an isolated threat, the locations really being north of Fredericksburg into northern Virginia, where they have that better setup of atmospheric dynamics up that way. Hail is possible for a good part of the Piedmont, central Virginia, northern Virginia, and anywhere up to three-quarters of an inch up to 1 inch of hail is going to be possible with this afternoon and evening storms. This gives you just a simulated radar time frame of what we're kind of generally looking at for development. And I know these images I would love to put them on the screen a little bit bigger for you, but a little bit difficult when we're talking about the entire state here. But from roughly 2 to 4 p.m., again, that's a time frame where we're not really looking at severe storms, but we'll start to see some storms developing. And then 4 to 6 p.m., things really start to get going. We'll see increased activity in terms of the spread, more people impacted, but also the intensity of those storms in that 4 to 6 p.m. time frame. Things should be really rocking with them heavy rainfall 6 to 9 p.m. and then things wrapping up after sunset. So that 9 p.m. to midnight window, we still have a lot of rain and possibly some thunderstorm activity, but things are really wrapping up and losing a lot of the steam, the energy, because we have the sun setting. So that kind of cuts off the factor of allowing for additional severe development. So in for a bit of a heavy rainfall throughout the afternoon and into the later evening hours. The probability of precipitation pretty high noon and beyond. So that is kind of an all afternoon type of an event. We're not going to be seeing rainfall in any one location for that whole entire time, but just thunderstorms developing and moving through. Now, that being said, our rainfall forecast is not it does not do a great job at picking up on exactly where those thunderstorms will be. So you'll see the targets of the heavier rainfall in those locations. Northern Virginia, the deeper of the greens, that's 1 to 1.5 inches, possibly 1.5 up to 2 inches possible. But we really desperately need this rainfall. It should be a good soaking rainfall for those of us that do see it. And Southwest Virginia, I forgot to mention actually at the top that there are a few, or actually I think I did, flood watches for Tazewell, Buchanan, and Dickinson counties. That's until this evening because they've had some additional rainfall in recent days that the rainfall that they see today could cause some more issues. So it's rain that is beneficial and much needed, but also could come with some severe thunderstorms. Our 3-day excessive rainfall outlook shows exactly those areas expecting to get the hardest hit with the rainfall. Northern Virginia, again, 1 to 1.5 inches of rainfall, and Southwest Virginia. But the threat for marginal, that's isolated to scattered flash flooding, is really possible anywhere in the Commonwealth. And tomorrow, although there's no severe weather expected, we are tracking the potential of a storm system that'll develop upstream. So that is in the Tennessee Valley. If that develops this afternoon and this evening, tomorrow's threat for excessive rainfall really could be centered along and east of I-95. So right now it's just a marginal threat, but we'll have to stay tuned for tomorrow's forecast to really see how things develop, because we just have so much moisture available in the atmosphere, especially tomorrow. I know some of the weather enthusiasts look at information, and if you are at all up on precipitable water, it really just is kind of a measure of how much water is available in the atmosphere for us to wring out. And it's pretty high tomorrow, especially east of I-95. We have precipitable water values northwards of 2 inches. So we could be seeing some additional flooding concerns tomorrow as well. We get to Wednesday, middle of the week, things calm down. We're not expecting rain, but then additional shower and storm chances possible Thursday and Friday as well. Now, getting back to that flood threat for tomorrow, the Weather Prediction Center is the one that puts out the excessive rainfall outlooks. However, when we look at it locally from the Wakefield National Weather Service office, they put a little bit more of a broad brush on tomorrow's threat. So we're really thinking by the time we look at what we're expecting here in our area, that the flooding threat tomorrow could be a little bit greater, a little bit further to the west, and it could be a little bit worse than what the Weather Prediction Center is saying for tomorrow. So definitely stay tuned on tomorrow's flood threat. And this just gives you an idea of what we're expecting. Again, this does not look like a whole lot of rainfall, but keep in mind that any one single storm could produce much higher rainfall rates than what we are seeing forecast. But it's definitely a start. It's hopefully going to put a dent in our drought situation that we have that's been, of course, course, growing in recent months, but we'll see how things shape up by the end of the week and how much rainfall we get. Silver lining here when we take a look and pivot to tropical weather is the National Hurricane Center saying that tropical cyclone activity not expected during the next 7 days. So that is something that, of course, we will keep an eye on for that longer range potential, but at least in the next 7 days, that is something that we should not have to worry about too much. And then I'll leave you with this here. This is just the overview of our temperatures today, by far the hottest day of the week ahead. And then that cold front brings us about 10 degrees cooler tomorrow. And then kind of just typical mid-June, mid to late June temperatures in the upper 80s and low 90s. Same with our overnight lows, pretty typical of this time of the year. And that unsettled pattern of additional storm chances later this week will continue throughout the Commonwealth. Pending any questions, that is what we have for the folks who are wrapping up Sail 250. There are also some small craft advisories on the open waters of the Atlantic, the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, really all where that activity is going down in VDEM Region 5. So the water will be a little bit choppy out there, and our winds are anywhere from 20 up to 25 knots if you happen to be out supporting the things happening in VDEM Region 5. But that's what I have for you, and we will see you next Monday. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.